experience manager. So we just completed our introductions only just, to ensure that we kind of set the expectation on how fast or how slow we need to go in the intro class. So I'm going to go with my pace, and you can stop me at any time, and, we can go fast or slow. So you all know probably by now, prerequisites. People can start off with nothing, and then as we progress, you can understand, kind of get to know basics of Java. You need to know, even if you start with nothing, you have to, go through Java introduction and learn at the least OOPS concepts, collections, servlets or service, how to build services, interfaces and annotations. So some basic knowledge you've got to have. The better knowledge you have, you will become a better core developer. And programming languages, as you know, it's web technology. So these are all the HTML, JS, and CSS at the minimum. And of course, depending on your organization. So Ramakrishna, you said you work for which organization?
Working with Samsung.
Okay, Samsung. So depending on, whether they build using front end, Angular, React, or any other specific JavaScript, then you need to know that as well if you are a front end developer. Then, of course, scripting languages includes Java. Yeah. Any questions? And then.
Yeah, here I have a question. As you have mentioned, like the JS technology, so it's the normal jQuery or JavaScript, or do you have anything very specific framework of JS in AEM? Like in Magento, we have Knockout JS, Prototype JS, those things. Do you have anything else in AEM?
AEM itself, for working in AEM itself, you don't have any requirement. This is just the requirement. Your architects or you guys will choose which JavaScript you would like to have. Some people go with just jQuery. Some people go with Angular, React. So it doesn't matter. It only depends on the choice of the organization. As long as you know basics of JS and jQuery, everything else we will be able to, update ourselves with the libraries. Yeah. And then web application framework, of course, somebody mentioned Spring. So if you have a web application framework knowledge, it's easier to grasp. So those are the things. HTML is a language that's like HTML, but it's introduced by Adobe for actually introducing some new syntaxes, quick syntaxes for us to program better. So you will learn about HTML a little bit. I'll just probably cover basics of HTML that's necessary for us to build, AEM app. And probably since you're already, working with Magento and also, Ramakrishna case, I think I should get the names right. What are the names? Ramakrishna and Subodha?
Soumya.
Okay, Soumya. So since you're already working, Soumya, since you already worked on Magento, you probably are familiar with the roles. Yeah, and of course, same is the case with Ramachandra. But basically, you have author. Who are all the authors? It could be marketing people that want to enter content. It could be managers that are approving, marketing managers or any other managers that are approving the content, and any non-developers for that matter. So, they don't need to have a lot of knowledge of any other technologies, obviously, right? They just have to get an idea of how AEM works, how to, quickly approve content or edit content. So, and of course, quality assurance is very important. That's another role where you will have to learn AEM at the least, and have a basic understanding of how to test the websites, and how to break it.
Ma'am, I have one question. Author means like it is part of the stakeholders or it is part of AEM developers only?
No, author means stakeholder is basically, it could be sometimes stakeholders do a quick authoring, like quick fixes, but they are mainly approving everything.
Or is it mean of, can I consider like that giving the what do you call the credentials or access? Is it like that?
Depending on how many licenses a company has bought, usually they will be able to log into AEM approve, or they just will get a quick link where they can just preview the content. Oh, branding looks good, the content looks good, it's ready to go. So stakeholders will make decisions like that. An author is not a developer. An author so is mainly just logs in and contributes the content, uploads the images, adds the text, and publishes the content. I'll go through all those concepts. If you are new, are you guys new to the CMS, content management system itself? Are you new to content management system? Hello?
So far, everything good, sir.
No, I'm just asking because author, I don't want to spend a lot of time with, if you are familiar with who the author is, that's why.
Like for basic understanding, authors have a very specific rights to edit or modify the content on the application, right?
Yes. Create also. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's true.
Okay. Okay.
just they can manage the content, the images, the textual content, whatever media we have, those stuff.
Yes. Yes. And yes, roles are specific roles. Like you can, based on what they are supposed to, what their roles are, these will, there'll be permission set within the users will have, specific permission set within AEM so that they don't accidentally modify something else. Like if, since they have environment access, they shouldn't be modifying any developer stuff. So here with content management system, there's a clear distinction between a developer and an author. Developer does not contribute content here, usually the authors, unless author says, hey, you know what, it's a new content management system, it takes time for me to learn, so you go ahead, and then developer wears the hat of author and maybe occasionally contributes for the first time, but 99% of the cases they have a specific role. And of course developers, they have, their work is mainly building templates, building code, so they will have a specific role. And there are different environments which I'll get to. And of course administrators, they need to have admin rights so they can work on configuration, security, and user permissions and things like that. So these are all the main things, and there could be others depending on the organization. So some of the basic concepts that we will look at in this course is, or in the next couple of days, basically what is content management system and what's AEM, understand how to install AEM, what are the different environments we work with. And with AEM, everything is about understanding the AEM constructs, like AEM consoles. There are various consoles that you work with. So these are AEM sites, assets, and authoring. Like these are all the different consoles as well. Authoring is not a console, but you will have to understand developers. Even though you guys might be developers, I didn't ask you like the goals of your goals, but even though you are not an author per se, authoring is important for you to test it out. And then we will look at basics of components and templates. Developers will always be talking in terms of components, AEM components and templates. And then there are some advanced concepts like editable templates. And of course, multi-site manager is like, if your organization is building websites for various country, various languages, then how would you architect? How would you work on it? So it's like internationalization. There are terms like language copy, live copy. Like how would you, given one site, how would you create another site, another language? Is there a way for, does AEM make it easy for us to build sites for multiple languages in multiple countries? Then we will also look at some concepts and functionalities. And you will be able to set up your dev environment and start writing code and develop components at the least. And then if time permits, then we can touch on a few of other concepts, advanced concepts as well. And of course, we talked about this. Experienced Java developers find it easy for them to become a full stack developer or a backend, developer. Of course, experienced web developer means like it could be a full stack or the front end. And if you worked on another CMS system, it's easy to compare and contrast and transition over. Then, of course, we also encourage freshers, if they come with, with a good knowledge of Java and HTML, they can learn AEM. So what is CMS according to you guys? We can just see what you guys think of CMS. Content management system.
So basically, as the name says, content management system, in CMS platforms, we can manage the content and media without touching the code base. And in CMS, we have these features of access controls. So we can assign different kind of roles and permissions to different users for their very specific tasks.
Perfect. So yes, like you said, you can actually able to create, edit, and organize and publish content. So in traditional systems, we'll get to that. Yeah, that is basically CMS. It enables you to manage the content. The content becomes gold for content editors in a CMS environment. It's an integrated environment which provides you a framework for developers to build their code, for content editors to manage the content, and for marketers to ensure that branding is maintained, consistency is maintained, since it enforces a certain way of building. It actually makes sure that you use templates, which is a basic building block for content management system. And of course, content management system actually helps you manage even the digital content in a central repository. And it's easy to, share content and content managed within content management system. You will be able to share that content to an external application. And content management system also comes out of the box with, ways to integrate with other applications. So if you haven't worked on content management system per se, then let's look at what is where. And if you haven't worked on building a website, assuming, then we of course have to know HTML, JS, and CSS, right? So how do we differentiate a traditional website development to working in content management system, right? So if you're writing a pure static HTML, you start off with one page, and then depending on how many navigations you have, you build that many HTMLs. And then of course, JavaScripts based on the forms and responses. And styling, it could be different. Homepage might be different from the other pages. So you start off with, let's say, 10 pages, and then even if the layout is the same, you will have to build that many HTMLs. And if you need 10 more pages, then you need 10 more HTMLs. And as the number of pages grow, you probably will hire developers to do the same kind of building the HTMLs. And of course, the content is within HTML, and any change that you have to make, you will have to ask developers to go ahead and change the content within HTML and deploy that to wherever your final website is being rendered. And if you need to integrate with some other websites, then you need newer application integration. Say for example, your HTML, you started off with small, and then you want to understand how the traffic is to your website, and marketers want to look at the reports. Then you start needing to actually store this in the databases, and then you need web services. And of course, other technologies. As the need grows, then you'll have to integrate with other technologies like Java, backend. And then you start thinking about efficiency, performance. Then naturally you will go into the application server. So instead of this is the traditional way. Instead of all of these, if you go into CMS, it actually provides you with, developers can write code once, and the content authors are the non-developers. They'll just come in, use the basic template and create additional pages without help of developers. At least that's the goal. Our developers' goal is to ensure that we develop templates so that content authors are self-sufficient and they feel like they are empowered and they are the owners to build content. And then they can create and publish content, right? I mean, in our case, in HTML case, developers would have to kind of publish the content. So editors can feel empowered. They create the content, they publish the content, they look at the website and feel happy about how it looks, how the content looks, and all that. And of course, CMS provides most of the infrastructure for your images, your content, your application development, the mobile, desktop, and all kinds of devices. So developers have to think about, when you build code, think about Bootstrap and things like that. So the application is written once and works in all other devices. Our basic need is to keep the code common between all platforms. And of course, the goal is CMS editors don't need any technical expertise. So what are the types of content management systems? So there are coupled. I used to work with the content management system. I don't know if you've heard about Oracle Web Synthesize or Fatfire. So those kind of systems were, of course, very nicely architected Java J2E based solid system, but it's completely coupled. So the rendering logic, at least the earlier versions of the software, the templates that were written in JSPs used to tightly be coupled with content and code. There's no distinction between front end, back end, or anything like that. It's completely coupled. So decoupled means that backend guys work with the backend, development, the Java and APIs, and front end works completely on the front end, and they just use the APIs and the Java code, custom Java code built by the backend developers. So that's decoupled. And you also hear terms of headless CMS. Headless CMS is basically, it just delivers the content, and the rendering responsibility is with the front end, whoever is invoking the content management system. Say your content management just serves as a repository of content, but you use something else for the front end to render this content, then they can invoke this content, content through APIs and REST-based APIs, JSON and stuff like that. There are many ways to integrate with CMS to render content. And then there is hybrid model. So this AEM supports headless as well as traditional. So yes. And yeah, it actually gives you platform for managing applications, and then it also has content delivery application and front end and presentation. So it takes care of everything else as we discussed. So we briefly touched upon what are all the features, major features. There are hundreds of features that CMS provides, but major features: content management, then digital asset management. You need to be able to upload images, work on renditions, tags, add tags to the images, and be able to associate the image, and ensure the branding is consistent and all that. Then of course you all know about user and permission management. AEM enables you to do that, create roles, add users, and ensure that users have the right permissions. And we just talked about the headless feature. And it's not just merely a platform for building and running your website. Of course, it is majorly that, but you all know that these days it's not just the website, it's also about other devices. So how do you define AEM? It's a comprehensive solution. So yeah, we touched on this. Forms is another thing, like user-based forms. It's you probably have to buy a separate license for the forms, but it's available for you to use it. So yes, of course, it makes it easy for your marketing content and assets. Why learn AEM? You probably know answers to this. Yes, it's the Gartner. Usually, there are certain organizations that actually run competitive analysis on various content management system, along with Sitecore and a few other Contentful and a few other content management systems. AEM is one of the marketing leaders and is in high demand. Many organizations, as you know, are using AEM, and of course there are more job opportunities, and these are all the obvious reasons. And websites, I think Samsung, what is Samsung using currently? Is it already using AEM, or is it going towards AEM?
No, they are already using AEM.
Okay.
They're using multiple technologies. It's not like only the AEM. They're using the AEM, and they're using React.js. They're using web services. They're using Oracle database. There is multiple technologies.
I see. So the front end is not driven by the AEM then. There is AEM is just for content repository kind of thing.
No. AEM they're using a front end. I have recently joined. Okay. So even I'm also not sure what exactly they're using it, but what I came to know, see, I just joined last month, last week only. Okay. So see, my role is I'm the project manager in my organization. So I don't know like what exactly they're using it, but see, I had an experience Java, Spring Boot, and data science, all these things, but I don't have any experience with the AEM. So I'm just trying to understand what is there actually so that I can manage my resources. You got my point, right?
Super. Got you. So yes, there are many. No, I have worked with this KP.org. Kaiser Permanente is a healthcare and insurance company. Herbalife is another, healthcare and retail. So JP Morgan Careers and Intel, Eaton, Albertsons. Like there are tons of websites. I mean, tons is just an exaggeration, but thousands of websites that are, built using the AEM. Yeah, I think we discussed about this a little bit in the beginning. So, yeah, using basic Sitely APIs, and using consoles, creating sample website structure, and static templates and stuff like that. And if you're a developer, then basically you need to have an IDE installed, like an Eclipse, and out of the box there is a plugin, AEM plugin, and you will be able to sync between your, if you're building a new Java component, then you can build it in your Eclipse environment and deploy it to AEM all the way because of the plugin. So that is something we can look at it if you have the need for, developing components. And of course, understand the architecture stack. And yeah, we will create some basic component. And you will be familiar with browsing through various consoles and and viewing content and fixing quick things, looking at the log files and stuff like that. And of course, the last one is AEM has both, earlier versions of the AEM. It used to be interface called classic interface, and nowadays it is touch UI. But we will look at both, just in case your organization is either migrating from previous one to new one, or for some reason they haven't migrated and they are used to classic UI. That's the reason why we even the recommended console is touch UI. And this is the course content, and these are all some advanced course content, like modularizing page rendering component. How does the string resolution happen? Like once you type in a URL, what exactly happens and how that gets broken down into resources, and how the content is rendered all the way through from the basic URL to content rendering. We can look at the Apache string resolution. And since you all are coming from the Java background, so this is also a Java-based hierarchical system. So inheritance, how does a component inheritance, one component gets inherited from another one, what does it inherit, what properties does it inherit? We'll look at that. And yeah, navigation component, we can look at how to build a basic navigation component. And if you're going through development, you need to understand how to use a logger. We will build a couple of components, some out of the box, maybe one custom component. Then we look at with dialogues or like widgets, like I mentioned about touch and classic UI, and how do you edit the configuration, and how do you enable insight editing. It's out of the box feature, but I will show you what are the configurations. You can disable and enable certain things using Insight Edit. Then logo is something that's common for all organizations. So creating a logo component might be interesting. Then we look at the foundational components, like some of the components where you can drag and drop. So what enables us to create a component where you can drag and drop other components? Yeah, it's iParsys is one of the components, basic components available out of the box, and you can inherit. You can pretty much serve as a container for any of the components that you can drag and drop into Parsys. So with this, the goal of any architect that is building the website is to make sure that there is not too many templates. There should be only unique set of templates, and so iParsys helps us achieve that goal by creating only what's needed. And some companies even go to the extent of creating just 1 or 2 templates, but majority at least 8 to 10 templates. And in some cases, people would have followed some custom template development process, and they would go up to 80 to 100 templates also. But that becomes very extremely confusing for the content authors to choose templates while they're building the content. Yeah, and then we can look at some of the complex components, like how do you build. We'll see which ones we can pick, but these are all the generic ones we have here. and we talk about internationalization. And of course, client libraries. Like if somebody is just a front-end developer and they want to be building, CSS, HTML, and then find an easy way to drop it to AEM, organize it in such a way that developers can methodically use them in their, code, then we can look at that as well. Yeah, we looked at this. And one of the reasons why people like AEM is because it also is a cloud-based solution. And we know that once it is in cloud, it's easier to integrate with other applications. And, you can access it from anywhere, which means that you can open it up to the international or any, geography nationwide. You can hire anybody and then have content authors contribute to content without having to have an environment set up. And with AEM, the specialty is that it has a lot of out-of-the-box components. It's so when you want to build a component, you look at what's already available, and in majority of the cases, we just overlay the component and adjust what other properties we need to add and build the websites. Unless it's like Apple, which likes to rip apart everything and then build custom. So easy to learn is debatable. It's like like anything, it's like basically getting familiar with the system, the jargon, how everything works together. So generally it is easy to learn. So business users, of course, it's very easy for them to quickly go ahead and edit content. So they love it. They love the fact that it is so easy and, and it actually provides you a framework where you won't go wrong with your brand. So some of the other concepts that we keep hearing in the AEM projects is various instances. Environments is another thing. Instances is, you work with a couple of types of instances when you install AEM. When you install AEM for authoring, the configuration is slightly different from when you install AEM for publish. So authoring is where authors author the content and developers basically set up the system so authors can contribute content. So in the authoring environments, we set up templates, components, and dialogues that are configured by developers. And as we've been talking about it, it's basically we, create, organize, and manage content within author. And author environment is where complete website development changes are carried out. You never work in publish environment to either edit the code or edit templates. As you know, the environment, it has to follow best practices. And that's why we recommend running author and publish. Not recommend, they run on different ports. Author and publish runs on different ports.
Do you consider publish in a production environment?
Environment is different. So what happens is author and publish instance can be there as a test. As part of testing, you can have author and publish instances in your development environment, and you could also have author and publish instances in your management and production environment. But when it comes to environment, publish is the final environment, where in the final environment you don't have authoring, you only have publish. You know what I mean? Otherwise, don't get confused. It's basically instances are set up in such a way that the only author instance can be enabled in all environments: dev, management, and publish. Our production, let's say production environment. The publish environment is set up only when in another environment, only when you want to test your publishes. whether publishing is working fine or not.
Who will publish it? Whether other people only will publish or other developers will publish?
Before you enable the environment for authors, right? You can, let's say when you install, you will get to know when you install. When you install AEM in a development environment, for a local development environment, you could have perhaps two instances. One is called author and one is called publish. Yeah. Just call it like that. It's a dev environment which has two instances. Same setup. So you build your template, you build your dummy content, you publish to your authoring publish, your developer publish environment. And once you are satisfied, oh, everything is working fine, publishes, it's all looking good, then you publish from your developer author instance to the actual management or staging environment where content authors work. So the content authors work in their authoring instance, and they may feel confident to just directly publish to the final production, or they may publish to some other, their authoring instance, their publish instance. I don't know if it's making sense, but
No, I just want to clarify myself whether my understanding is correct or not.
Mhm.
For example, in development environment is there, the UI developer is developed it, and the author is given the author, okay, and everything is working fine. Then they did the publish it. So this setup is in the test environment, okay.
Yes.
Okay. So in the production also, how we can replicate the same. So again, the developer has to move the changes, and again, author has to author also is not required in the production directly. Whatever is published in staging, directly we can move to the production.
Yes, from the there is actually the publish process is now, is basically through a continuous integration. Jenkins, the whole the code and the content moves that way. The code you publish through Jenkins, and content is published through content management. So to answer your question, in a staging environment, let's say where authors are contributing content, they will directly publish to the production. Whether you have a publish instance or not is a choice. They may not need to do any test publishes.
Okay, so publish is nothing but my final product. That's it. So whatever changes, I can get it from the Git to the Jenkins. I can deploy in the production same way. So author is not required in the production.
Yes, author is not required, and in fact, it's not recommended to have author in production.
Clear.
I just want to take it back. So it depends on how you want to set up. Like in the production, let's say in the final production environment, you let authors to author content and publish it to the instance. Yes, authors are working in the final production environment, in authoring of the production, authoring instance of the production environment, and they publish instance of the production. But if authors are working in a previous environment, let's say staging, in the production you don't have any author, then they directly publish to the final instance of the production environment. So majority of the companies set it up in such a way that on the production they will have a author instance where authors are logging in and making final changes to the content and click publish to go to the publish environment. In some cases they say we don't want to do anything in the production, so they create a production environment author, which is a previous environment. So it depends on how an organization sets it up, but the best practice is to have only the publish in the production environment.
Okay.
Because yeah.
In the author instance, like after creating or modifying the content, do we have an option of preview, or we need to publish it, then only we can visualize the new data?
Now in this you can preview in context itself, where whichever instance you are entering content, you can preview right then and there.
Okay, so in
You don't
simple
need to
terms,
publish.
Yeah, in simple terms, like we can say that in author instance is the place where basically the content management and development is done, and publish is the part where it is visually available for everyone.
Yeah, for the end users, yes.
Okay.
Okay. So let's see how much time, how we are doing on time, and we can quickly do a demo. Yeah. So let me just give you a quick demo of the CMS, and then we'll have Naveen send you. Do you guys have an AEM license file, or would you need a private copy of your license?
If you can teach us how to generate that file, it will be more helpful.
We cannot generate. It's license is something that's definitely you need to have the license file. I can teach you how to. I can give you the Java the license file for use and one for distribution. So I have sense it's running. So I'm just gonna
Here I
the
have
way
a
you
question. Like
this
AEM
is
is
the
not at all a open source platform, right?
Oh yeah, I needed to talk to you about a little bit about the history of AEM. So AEM used to be called as DayCQ for, and that was open source. Yeah, DayCQ for many years, for 8 to 10 years, it was an open source platform. And if you look at online resources, there's plenty of topic available on DayCQ. And then once Adobe actually took over AEM, they took over CQ, they called it AEM. Still, there are a lot of there are community can contribute components and stuff to AEM, so they will make it available to everybody. So that is there. Like if you are a developer, you like to look at a component or build a component for community to use, you build it, and eventually once Adobe looks at it and says this is fantastic, it's used, it can be applied by many developers, then they will make it available for everybody. So it used to be an open source platform.
And like how many types of versions we have, like the enterprise one and the cloud one, which only works on Adobe Experience Cloud.
Yeah, you have basically two types, right? Either if it's an on-prem version or it's a cloud version. And it's like even in the cloud you have managed, and you can do management yourself, or you can services are run by the companies can decide to have Adobe build the entire environment for you and manage it for you, and the organizations will only go ahead and build the templates, build the components, and work it out that way. Or you could have an on-prem setup where you have your own, you manage your own servers, you manage your own installations and everything yourself. Or you could have a hybrid where you could have certain environments on the on-prem, and then marketing cloud also depends on how many marketing. If the company bought a marketing cloud, then it'll have many other solutions available, like the e-commerce, like you talked about, Magento and Target, Audience Manager, and a few other few other Adobe components. I shouldn't say components, they are actually products, the licensed products available. Yeah. So it depends on your needs. I mean, if you only want AEM on the cloud, it's available. If you want AEM as part of the marketing cloud solution, it's available. And if you want an on-prem, you can go with.
And how the pricing works in this, like it is like pay as you go, or any specific prices are there?
Yeah, I think licensing model depends on the number of users and of course the number of pages also. Yes, it has both, it takes into consideration both of them.
Okay, fine.
So in your training, how we are going to cover all these things? Like, are you going to provide like any free open source one, or like do you have any free version or trial period? Anything is there?
We normally have something called as Jumpstart. It's a quick start file, jar file, which has everything for you. Like it includes a web server, and a container, the whole deal. You just It's very easy to install that jar file, and you just have to have a developer license. This is distributed to only people that have bought AEM or an authorized training dealer that will have a license. That's why I'm saying Naveen might be able to distribute it. If not, I have a personal copy. I can give it to you. The quick start jar file and a license file that I use for my trainers.
Okay.
I'm actually based out of US, and I do training for US. But this time I happened to come to India, and I was asked to do this training, so I'm just doing for the company. For
Okay.
so another we'll get you a personal copy, a jar file, and a license file to work with.
Okay.
Here I have one question, like these jar files and license files are only valid till this course is there, or it's for lifelong?
This version, of course, right? And AEM keeps changing the versions. Like you were talking about, like version 5, 5.5, were all like the. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
It said internet
Yes.
unstable, but those are not the day CQ versions. But latest ones are like the AEM versions, like 6.1, 6.2, 6.3, 6.5. So right now it's 6.5. And if you get this jar file and the license file, you will get to keep this for lifetime up to as long as it's version 6.5. But
Okay.
if it kind of the next version is kind of completely different, which I suspect I won't. This is just something for you to keep it lifelong, because that's your system. You're not depending on any cloud versions, so you have your physical jar file and a license file, so that's there for you to keep. Yeah. So
So
now
what is the latest version currently?
6.5.
6.5. Okay.
6.5 is what we are using, and 6.6 is under development, I think, but I can double check. Latest version is 6.55, something like that. Yeah. So yeah, so I have the jar and the license file, and of course there are some prerequisites we will talk about in the next session when we get to install. Try and see if you can get a JDK. Hopefully you all have JDK since you're using Magento, and then also yeah, the
Yes,
Magento project.
I have JDK installed, JDK 1.8.
That might be okay. Let me see 6.5 prerequisites. Go through that and make sure that we have the right version for 6.5.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Maven, if you're doing a development, if you're going to be setting up like a developer, then you will need Maven. If not, we can learn with this, the CQ, the AEM instance. And what else? Yeah, that should be good. So once you come in, then the basic one is admin. Admin is usually enabled by default for you to log in, and during installation you can always change it. And once you log in, you come to this basic page where you can build. You start building your website. So the project has to be created according to Adobe AEM Maven archetype. This is based on the Apache Maven. So project has to be created either manually into the the folder structure, or it has to be created through Maven archetype, and it's so once the project is built, then you can build sites. Developer sets up the basics of the sites, and then once the site infrastructure is there, content authors will go ahead and start. Once again, give me a second, I just have to get the door. Sorry about that. So we'll go through all of these, one by one in our next session. So just wanted to show you quickly. Sites is where you build your sites, and out of the box there's something called vRetail. So this is an environment where content authors will come in and contribute content. So let's say we have set up this structure already, and generally, let's say vRetail is out of the box website. When you get your CQ jar files, you will be able to examine this yourself. You can go through these sites, and you know if it's a multi countries and multiple languages, it's set it up, you set it up this way, and based on how many languages you have, you can set up whether it's like English, Spanish, French, everything. And then under that you set up your basic pages. And if you want to kind of look at actual site, like you were asking me, right, about the preview option. So you can preview from here. So let's say somebody wants to change content within AEM, then they browse to this AEM or use a search to get there. And, you can come in and edit the content. Here you can edit the content in place. I'll show you how to do that. Or you can just click on preview and it shows the content. So without even publishing, I'm only in my authoring environment, and I just came in. Authoring environment is available to developer. In this case, it's a developer instance, right? So you do everything here. So you have to differentiate. You can ask yourself, oh, am I doing this as an author? Am I doing this as a developer? Or am I as an admin? So at the moment, I'm wearing the hat of a content author. I come in and say, okay, everything looks good to me. Oh my God, these developers have left some debug statements. Oh, good. No, I don't like this. So I don't approve it. If everything was good, I would have published it. Since it's a developer environment where we're like, oh, is it coming here? Is it coming here? Oh, is it working? So you get the idea, right? You get the idea. So this one is fully ready, unless but it has a demo component here. So I don't like the demo on test page. I don't want to publish it. Yeah. This is about it for today's intro class. And we will learn about a little bit about other consoles. We start with the other consoles, and then I will help you with the jar file installation of your own environment in the next class.
Okay.
About the logistics, I'm actually here only till end of this month, and then after this I will be heading over to California. And I will try to, there is another person that I'm training, and if possible, if we catch up, then we can combine all the three together. One thing with me is that I, sometimes I just want you guys to work on my schedules, depending on what your schedules are. Let me ask you, what are the best times for you? What are some of the best times for you to work on this training? Mornings or evenings?
For me,
It's
choose
mornings.
morning.
Morning only. Okay.
In early morning also.
Okay.
No issues.
Okay.
Hello.
Can it go up to 10 or
Yes,
say
yes,
it?
yeah, up to 10
Okay.
or 11 also, no problem.
Okay, great. So you have the flexibility there. Up to 11 in the morning you can work. And maybe if we don't, I usually, this should be possible in the mornings are perfectly fine. If it doesn't work out, then maybe on some days you can do it in the evenings also, late evenings.
So generally, I will tell you my office timings. It will start by 1:30 in the afternoon and it ends with 10:30 in the night. So I'm working. Yeah,
Gotcha.
you got my point, right?
For
Gotcha,
me,
gotcha.
it's almost same. It's like from 11:30 to evening 8:30, like that.
Gotcha. Okay, then we'll start before 11 in the morning. What we have for now, and then I will work with Naveen to finalize the schedule.
Is it fine with you if we
Thank you, guys.
continue the class at the same time? Like this?
Yeah, I guess as long as we can do this timing only.
Okay, fine. fine. And one more thing, as a curiosity, I'm asking how frequently they change the versions. Currently, we are doing 6.5 migration. It is going to live on 20th of this month. So I just want, as a curiosity, I'm asking how frequently they release the versions. When the last version is released,
It was like a year ago. It's fine. I think 6 point.
now
There's not too much.
okay. Now we are
No, there's
going.
not too much of.
Now we are going for.
Sorry.
Sorry, I think your internet is maybe I'm not able to hear you properly. See, currently we are doing the
Oh,
migration 6.5. Hello, I think it is fine. Oh,
I think she has switched her internet.
yes.
I just changed the internet. Just now changed the internet to upstairs, which is better.
It is fine now. It is very much clear.
Oh, okay. You should have told me then itself. Sorry about that. Hopefully you got what I was talking about all this time.
Yeah, we got it. Whatever you said is we got it. We don't have any issues. But when in the last 2 minutes only we got this issue. But
Okay.
anyways, fine. We understood. No, I was asking like the earlier version is 6.4, right? So no, when is it is released, and what are the major changes like 6.4 to 6.5? Why people are do the migration? I just want to know at the high level.
Sure. At a high level, I think 6.5 is much more flexible. It actually introduces concepts like, the content fragments, single page editing, and also template, in place template. Dynamic templates is something very attractive in 6.5. In addition to a lot of other fixes, if you're working with other applications, then out of the box, you have JSON. You can produce any content as a JSON in a JSON format and consumed by any other applications. And also experience fragment means that you could also, in addition to the content, you could ship the as part of your website, like maybe a component or whatnot, as a complete package of a JSON and render from another application. So those are all the three things, but I can go over difference between 6.4 and 6.5 in my other class. Just remind me, and then I can give you complete package. There are release notes that we can go through together and get a complete picture. I will cover this in my next class.
Okay, fine.
One last question from my side. Like right now, I'm 2 years away from the Java technology. So can you suggest me like what Java concepts, like apart from core Java, do I need to go through servlets or Spring Boot or microservices or the collection framework, so that before we start in this course, I have a quick brush up from my side.
So in Java, the majority of things is building the service, right? The servlet.
Yeah.
And of course, on the responsive side, you need to be familiar with the REST framework and annotations. We use annotations heavily. If you are in the middle tier, you're okay, because you're mostly using what are called as sling tags, Apache Sling. So majority of the things we'll be able to do with thing. But if you're building components, those are all the. If you know basic core Java completely, you're good. In addition to that, just understand the concepts of inheritance, and
Oops concept, complete oops.
yeah, that's it. In addition to the basic core Java, understand servlet, the REST mechanism.
So the REST mechanism is also in servlet, or it's in Spring Boot or some other framework of Java.
No, it's basically everything is Apache Sling only. You are, pretty much what you'll be doing in Java is you understand the framework and understand the API. You have to adhere, like you have to adhere to the extending from the basic, the existing, interfaces or in existing classes, and then you write your own Java within the framework. Since you're working everything within the framework, the dependent libraries and all will be available for you. So just for you to think about how exactly you want to build a component. It's good if you understand how you can annotate, how you can actually the model concept, injecting your attributes from, let's say, one thing is that in the web technology environment, what happens is you have to think about the contexts, right?
Yes,
The request response parameters,
yes,
like how are you sending whatever variables, whatever request parameters into your Java component, and from Java you receive all these attributes of a node, and you have to do some manipulation and send it back in terms of properties, inject it back so that from the front end sling you can use it. That's all. So just conceptually, you need to think about it, and when you're coding, you just adhere to the structure. There are a ton of documentation which I'll point you to for building components. What are all the things you have to import? What are all the things? How what are all the methods you have to adhere to? It's basically if you have built Java beans, like it's basically getter and setter methods, right? To send those properties back and forth.
the MVC design pattern you are talking about creating model classes.
Yes. Yes, it's an archetype. It's Apache Sling archetype.
Yeah.
That's the design pattern. And yeah, like I think you were asking about how frequently it changes. I think from 6.2 to 6.5, the archetype has changed from 13 to now 23, I think. The Apache archetype, the Sling architecture that they use, and the JDK version has changed, I think, from 8 to 11, 8 to 11, yeah. And frequency of releases, I don't know if I answered that question at all. So it's nothing to worry about, at least a year gap. And even within a year gap, it's not too much, in the sense basic architecture won't change at all. It's going to be an introduction of like maybe some new concepts and stabilizing. But between when we examine between 6.4 and 6.5 tomorrow, you will see. And
No, what I was trying to understand is like for the customer perspective, so what is the advantages if we do? Actually, currently we are migrating 6.4 to 6.5. So in this month we are going live. So I'm just trying to understand how it really helpful to the customer level.
one thing is that Adobe actually only maintains the latest few versions. So in one case, you don't have a choice. You have to keep moving to the latest version. And in the other case, there are actual advantages to moving because of obvious reasons of, being more stable, being cloud friendly, being more flexible, and of course, all these new features of editable templates and stuff like that. So it could be
That
feature, the
is
stabilization. It's just to keep up with Adobe's development, you have to be in the
so
latest.
mainly it helpful for only for the technology prospect only. It's not for the customer perspective.
From the custom, yeah, I mean, of course, it is important, right? I mean, it has to be important to maintain the Adobe environment. So three aspects, right? One, from the customer point of view, who is the customer? Customer also includes the developers. Eventually, they could be the developers, right? So we need to make sure that the system is maintainable. Then we need to make sure that it's easy for the content authors to contribute content, and the approval process, right? In the earlier versions of the product, if it is a limited licenses, in order to approve the content, you will have to log into the system. But certain integrations like workforce, right? There are third-party applications that our customers are well versed with. So Adobe is moving towards integrating with that, so that without even logging into the Adobe environment, they will be able to approve the content. You can move back and forth the images, and so those are some of the advantages for the customers.
Okay.
From the customer point of view only, there are few infrastructure changes, integration changes, the stability, and then addition of new features. So and then cloud, right? Once it moves to cloud, the connectors, they keep building connectors. You want to integrate with Salesforce, you'll have to build your own connector. But if you want to integrate with Magento, it's out of the box. So And then there are out of the box integration to Adobe Target and Adobe Audience Manager and things like that in cloud. So it keeps on growing. Once you are in cloud, it's limitless, so they keep
Okay.
moving people onto the cloud version.
Okay. One more thing. How is the market for the AEM in US, ma'am?
Oh, it's fantastic.
Is it good more than Java, or is it good more than A and ML, or is it more than a data science, like competition, or like how?
Competition wise, AEM has been the market leader for last several years. Yes, it is definitely better than, Java, of course, as you can understand, Java is general and Java skills are applicable anywhere else. But having an additional added AEM skills means you will have like 30 to 40% more, your package wise and demand wise. It's a niche skill. Only thing is that Java, with any other technologies, content management systems that I have seen lives through 10 to 15 years. I was also thinking AM sort of has been living for a while, but they keep making new advances. They actually have introduced something called Sensei, and so AI also they're moving forward. But there is competition. I think Sitecore has come in, Contentful has come in. So earlier this was the leader, and now they are taking some portion of a market share. But that does not mean there are looking at the major companies that are using AEM, there's still a demand for the developers.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, it's but at least one thing is that your Java skills will be intact if you're a backend developer, so you will continue to use your Java, and you have understood the content management concept, so you will be able to learn any other content management by comparing and contrasting the concepts of one CMS is my take on this one.
Okay.
All right, guys. Thank you
Okay.
so much. And we will see you tomorrow.
Okay. Thank you so much. And are you going to create any classroom, ma'am? Or how? Or like how you're going to share the files
I
going
think
forward?
Naveen has for shares all this recording and all the files in a common repository, and
Okay.
I can share it with him, or yeah, or I can also So let's do it that way. If not, I can share it through my Google Drive. I'll figure out a way by tomorrow.
Yeah. Okay. Fine.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
Have
you.
a good day. Bye.
Have a good day.